was impressed. You see that email?
Yeah.
Wow, I'm impressed because she's thorough. I mean,
Yeah.
She is very thorough. She's very thorough.
Hey, gotta make it look good. Make it till you make it, right?
You did.
Gets less questions that way when it looks professional.
Oh, Lance is pretty good from La Valley though, huh? He knows these buildings and that. The architect.
Yep.
Pretty
He's the
sure.
guy you go to for schools.
Ah,
He's the guy you go to for schools.
yeah, they did. He's pretty thorough.
Bob, do you see the fountain that we built at Tuscan?
I haven't seen it yet. John was telling me when he was doing a little
Yeah.
doing work in Triad, down in Portsmouth.
Yeah. And the one in Tuscan's insane.
Shoot, and was it like 24 feet across?
25, I think, across. It's massive. It's got 4 massive center jets and then like small little bubblers that shoot out from like the
Down
cap.
across.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's
Is this at the new hotel?
what?
Is it at the new hotel?
It's close. We did the pool at the hotel.
Okay.
And then the fountain is kind of like the road LL Bean. You go on that road with what's it called? They go in there, the Shake Shack or something
Yeah.
like that. It's that rotary right there. We did that huge fountain.
Mm.
They about I think last year or 2 years ago they had like another company doing a bunch of the concrete work and Joe got pissed off at them and we're higher in price, our company, so Joe's all about saving money. But then when he saw it, and then he was like, yeah, like they messed up all like the paper band footings and we had to go in and rip them all out and redo them. So we're not even close to being done over there. We're doing like 30 plus yards a day there. And we're down in Galen Street right now in Watertown doing 60 yards tomorrow. That's 10,000 square feet total that we're pouring there in Watertown, but the Tuscan, we have so much work at the Tuscan, it's insane. We've done like millions just with Tuscan alone. But that's Eddie running that whole project. Eddie's like the commercial guy.
Yeah.
So he's beat. We're looking at the calendar, we're like, 6 more weeks. And then we're pretty much, right around, we lose all our labor and the week before Thanksgiving for the visas. So we lose, I'd say 80% of our workforce, and then the rest of the green cards that will stay here until I'd say Christmas, and then we're off. I get 1 week off a year, and then we're back to work after the new year, and then I'm crazy all of February. And I go to World of Concrete in January. I saw you out there a couple years ago. Me and Eddie still go every year for Perfect Track.
Yep.
And pretty much second half of January, all of February, on all of our sales guys and start scheduling, ordering, and I don't get any time off. But I get reduced hours, which is nice. So I go to 7 to 3 and no more Saturdays or Sundays. So
That's perfect.
yeah, I go 82 hours a week to like 40.
Half a week.
Yeah, yeah. I say I work part-time in the winter.
Yeah,
That's what, the boss man calls it.
Yeah.
Part-time. Yeah, okay.
John's pretty tough.
Oh, yeah, he is. And I'm like center of attention now, so it's everything's me, everything that goes to that company is on me now, so. This is really my first year running it by myself, and I'm like, whoa.
Lot
So
to
it's-
Lots to it.
We do a lot of work. A
Yeah.
lot of work.
You do.
that's too commercial and residential.
Yeah, we're about, I'd say 80% residential, 20% commercial, because we don't want to go union.
Yeah,
So we have to kind of keep that number down, so we don't have to go union. And then when we get a union job, then we're stuck paying their labor guys just to stand there and do nothing. So,
All right, let's call to order the meeting. 6:34. Okay. So I guess we should touch base about the numbers and first, and, if anyone had questions. I mean,
I thought they were spot on. I've worked a lot within different fields of residential, commercial, and utilities, and I thought square footage wise, and as well with the actual, where they came out, I thought they were pretty spot on. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts on were.
I think Trident's approach of how they leveled and come up with their end numbers, was a responsible approach.
yeah,
I think
Agreed.
they're pretty much napkin drawings at this point
Mm.
to be able to put, concrete numbers to. So I do think they did their due diligence
yeah,
and had a responsible.
I agree, because I mean, there's some numbers that are just out there, and then some were
mhm.
more normal, and they kind of normalized the numbers,
Mm.
which was good.
There's a lot of work on these drawings, like, they're very schematic.
Oh, yes, they're-
There's like no deep, like, I mean, they try to qualify like a lot of things, like, but there's a lot of work, so, and there's a lot of like, probably things that are still not, aren't applicable yet, so. So the only like big concern I had was the escalation number. I am concerned about that. I mean, I'm seeing escalation numbers higher than that, like across the board on projects, so knowing that we're gonna go to like a vote with that number in there kind of has me a little nervous.
That we could be too low.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's too low.
what I was kind of fearing too, as, when I was with National Grid, we saw some projects jump 25% year over year.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so hard.
That's the hard.
Knowing, I'll say, subcontractors that we deal with are saying that they're seeing leveling out
Mhm.
of pricing for projects for next year. I mean, we're talking further out than that.
Yeah,
With this, I do think adding contingency or escalation would be, but
mhm.
we're going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I mean, I thought their contingency number two, based on the drawings, was kind of low,
Right.
like,
I thought it was interesting that one of the contractors, was a little off on the square footage
mhm,
compared to the other two,
yeah,
which I thought that was strange. Did they not understand the drawings correctly, or
but it could have just been software, like,
did
take
the
off
software
shit.
interpret it?
Yeah,
By the wrong scale.
yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like, 200 square feet.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
$2,000-3,000 or
Yeah.
something like that, but
Yeah,
I mean, at least it wasn't 20,000.
no.
I didn't completely misunderstand. And I thought the price for the road work, was very reasonable.
Mhm.
Yeah. Considering the length of the road to go around the building.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen that go much higher even with just on the town side of building a road, so.
Yeah, and there's work over there too, like in the building. It's not just, flat road.
Right, and it's not all clear.
No,
I mean, we'll probably be doing some clearing of trees, which I don't think was fully specified out in that.
Mhm.
So to be a little over $1 million for clearing and doing the road work. I thought that was really reasonable.
Especially when I see like what driveways cost.
Yes.
Like realistically, like,
Well, asphalt through
Yeah.
the roof.
yeah,
I mean, if we can get them to hold to those prices, that'd be great, but
yeah.
I mean, that could be a huge variable on the price escalation is asphalt and as well, steel.
Yeah, they explained the different, because the numbers were different under steel, like, there was one company, they explained that, right? Like,
Yes,
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, they had, I thought he said structural, and it's masonry bearing with very.
Yeah,
So
they're
there's
not-
gonna be very little
Yeah.
bit of steel.
That's why they were way off on the steel.
Yeah, was the estimator one, I think, was high on steel, because it's just very generic.
Yeah.
And,
were there any questions on the plans?
I think the plans look pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
It meets what it needs, so. I mean,
yeah,
according to the plans on what they need to go forward with like a full day, it's what they need. There's really no wants.
Yeah, they were at least talking to,
yeah, there wasn't much wants.
No.
yeah, they
there
were
wasn't
talking
any.
to the educators and,
Yeah,
okay, this is what you need, this is what we're planning for.
I'm just talking more like layout, because as far as like building and like, you know, what you're estimating for, like, I mean, as far as construction, like, you know, there's great ways of like planning and needing like, you know, a better construction number than just planning like.
The only thing that I thought would be interesting or useful for the building would be to connect where the cafeteria is to the other end of the building and have a hallway pass through, like a tunnel of sorts. That way you're not going from the extreme far end of the building all the way over to the cafeteria, but certainly that would be increasing your cost.
Yeah,
But
Yeah,
yeah. The only thing I wasn't a fan of is just having the kindergarten playground area on the outside.
yeah, well, that was the other thing I'm thinking of, trying to
Yeah.
close the kindergarten.
Yeah.
And
I was almost thinking that if
I
they,
like that they're, like, now they're actually kind of close, like, near each other.
yeah,
Because I do feel like kids kind of learn from each other, and it's like the growing, you know. And I don't like that we're gonna do all that work twice.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be building two separate playgrounds, whereas like if it's just one big thing, like there's actually like a savings there. And playgrounds are not cheap to build.
no, no.
So,
well, we will have two separate playgrounds in the end.
Yeah,
yeah,
if you move this wing over to the
Yeah.
end, and you brought the kindergarten playground next.
like
to
it's
it.
weird that they like
That
put
could
the
park
wing,
If that moved down.
yeah.
And they
Yes.
put both, and then we actually have.
That's
more
one of the
parking.
things I didn't like about the plan, like, I actually, like, I don't know why it's so far off from the road.
I only thought it's potentially that you could have additional building done there at some point.
Well, you could do the opposite, like you could put it inside,
Mhm.
you know. It would be nicer looking too, if it was more. And then like the internal like part was, I don't know, I just thought it was kind of weird. I'm sure it's because of corridor placement, but I also feel like they corridor, so. they could
Yeah.
go off.
Mr. Black,
Yes.
I'm forgetting now what the idea is for, I believe the buses are supposed to go around to the back side of the building and then drop kids, right? Is that the
Yeah.
plan in the end?
So, yeah, so I mean, the general idea is anytime you can create a loop with the buses, it makes everything so much safer. Because right now we have a very tiny loop and everyone is trying to get in the same place. So if you have multiple different drop-offs, cars,
Right.
buses, that makes everything a lot safer, which
Right.
is what you see at all the other schools, There's just multiple different drop-offs.
So I guess,
So yeah, LEAP is kind of over here in that front wing.
right,
And then I think the kindergarten drop-off is kind of towards that back wing. Or no, sorry,
Yeah,
the
like-
bus drop-off is the front and the parents are kind of in the back.
right.
Yeah.
So I think having that green space there
Mhm.
would be good for drop off.
Yeah.
How, you know,
Yep.
teachers meet there,
Yep.
you're all meeting your kids right there instead of being so close to the road.
Mhm.
I mean, that would also be a good spot for like, benches or tables. or
That's
something.
like, but that's really far. Like drop off now, like meets that need, fine.
Hmm.
Like, there's plenty of space, like, parents are all hanging out.
Oh,
and-
really?
Yeah, I mean, I'm out there every day. It's not like we're all kind of like, so for bus, like, it happens pretty quickly, like,
Hmm.
they come in and come out, and that's pretty far distance. So, but, I don't know if
It's
they
hard to-
looked at it.
Kind of hard to understand, without the scale, I guess.
Yeah. I'm just thinking like, just based on me being out here, like,
Mhm.
I was looking at it today and I was like, thinking about it.
Do we know what that distance is from the kindergarten building there to the back, driveway or back loop?
They don't have like a graphic scale on here. I was looking at it. It's a scale. But, I mean,
Hold on, I can measure it.
okay,
I don't know if this is.
yeah, the door's like 3 feet, so.
I put a guess on, I would say somewhere, gotta be somewhere around 100 feet.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, because the gym is 4,000 square feet, so say it's 100 times, 100 feet by 40. So you take the place of the gym that they're gonna build, I say it's close to 100 feet from the building to the road. If I had to put a guess on it.
Yeah, it's like the size of the gym.
That's what I'm saying, if it's 100 feet by 40,
Yeah.
I'm thinking roughly probably 100 feet.
What do you wanna know the distance of?
Where the new kindergarten addition to the
Oh.
loop road, that, big
That
walkway.
great, that big walkway, like driveway.
So
Like
thi-
86 feet?
This one down here?
No,
No.
up top, where the gym is, where the new gym would be, all day kindergarten.
To the back.
The multi-purpose room.
Yeah,
Call it 85.
Well, I
feet.
think I think the parent drop off would be here for kindergarten.
yeah, but we're talking about the big bus drop off at the back.
That would be in the front,
To the,
So buses were dropping in the front, I thought
Yeah.
the buses were dropping in the back.
No, front,
front right
Front. And the mean and.
right. at the
So
main
what
entrance.
is this giant, like,
Yeah,
there. That's all the food delivery.
Yeah, that's to the kitchen.
So, I mean, so like, most of the stuff gets cooked at the high school
yeah,
and we deliver. So this would just be another version of that where they can come and deliver the food.
I thought, I guess I misheard you earlier. I
Oh.
thought the bus route was coming in the back and dropping one.
No, it just helps us with the parent cars to kind of create a loop. Like, think of what the high school just
Bus
did,
drop off.
or the middle school. It's like having that loop really helps us. to-
Kindergarten drop off for parents.
Yeah.
Here's LEAP here, so they pull in and they can go into LEAP. Kindergarten's here, they come in and they go here and here and here, so it's close to their classrooms. And buses would just loop out and everybody else loops around and then expanded parking here.
So I guess the only question would be is there any idea for that green space?
Behind it.
Yeah.
It's always been there. We kind of know it's an open space.
they shift it closer to the loop road, so you have more field on the inside.
So move this.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah,
so then you can take the playground in the front on the loop road and have everything,
be in the corridor.
Next to
so
one
to
another.
speak.
yeah, next to one another.
I want, see where they have the audio, Dan, on that small addition towards the loop road?
Mhm.
That's 1A.
Yep.
I think that's a closet.
Mhm.
I wonder if they could move that where the corridor is and slide this whole wing closer to the
Yeah,
back
because
loop
like,
road.
they have like a pretty large corridor, like technically for an elementary school and younger, like you don't necessarily need these large corridors. They just copied kind of the dimension that you
yeah.
used. So we could even, you could even shrink that down a little bit and then move it over, so it's not as wide. It would just line up with the rest of the building. Because then you have like a bigger corridor, and then if you ever want to add a second story or whatever, it's just more space. between everything.
So you're saying shift this whole thing this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And move the corridor.
Because that's just gonna be, I mean, honestly, you're not gonna have kids running around out there, like, not, it's,
We hope not.
yeah, that's what makes me worried about the
So
kindergarten play area.
would that be the reason to put the kindergarten playground next to the pre-K?
Yeah, I mean, I think they
So
should
there's
be,
nothing over
That's what I-
here.
right, because it's a
Yeah.
security issue, like, if you have parents that aren't supposed to be there, or like custody
Yeah.
things, like, that happens all the time.
Because right now, the
So,
playgrounds are next to each other, the way it's
Yeah.
built now.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I think if they stay together, I mean, one is already fenced off at Moose Hill now, so if
Yeah.
they keep the same, they're trying to keep the building like the corridors, the rooms all the same. I personally think it's better to keep.
Because it's pretty close to
playgrounds
the
together.
road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's something they could look at.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And also future expansion again down the
Yeah.
road if they need to. They have the room now on the inside
Yeah.
rather than the road.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
And they don't, I mean, I'm assuming like the trucks that are coming in for food deliveries are not these like giant,
Not 100 feet long.
no, they're not like,
Yeah.
they're probably like,
Dan's probably,
they're either vans or they're like smaller, they're not like
Yeah.
big
I think,
trucks.
box
Yeah.
truck.
Well,
They're
there's
like a
a
box
van
truck.
from
Not
the high school.
assembly.
There's a van from the high school.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, because high
Oh.
school.
Oh, then, yeah.
They don't need 80
Yeah.
feet. or
Like, I didn't know
whatever.
if like, it was like Trimark or Sodexo or whoever's runs our thing,
No.
has like a small box truck.
Yeah, it's all small, but it could also just be like deliveries, like when they're delivering paper and things
Yeah,
like that
yeah.
too, you know?
But they're not gonna have like a giant, like,
No, trucks have really
like a
gotten a lot
UPS
smaller.
truck, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, UPS would be out front with the main
Yeah.
entrance.
yeah. So, it's just a thought, because I think too, it's
Mhm.
like, doing all that work at this, like, not in separate locations too, would be better.
Right,
Yeah.
and certainly these design questions, I think, are great and worthwhile, just hope that they don't change the cost much,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that that might actually reduce some cost.
potentially.
This is a question I know, I do not know the answer to. Did they put a hallway there so they can start building without disrupting these while school is going on? Is that why there's that space there? Like, can you build a new classroom right up against the old one without disrupting it? Is that
I
why-
mean,
But
you
you
could,
still
yeah, you
have
can,
to-
yeah,
Okay.
you can like just have it cut off, like, you could just have that. They don't even have to, they could technically build this building separate completely.
Yeah.
And then just make that final connection over like
Got it. Okay.
holiday or something. So,
Weekend even.
yeah,
Yeah.
it happens all the time,
Okay.
so, yeah, I think that they were just trying to align the corridors, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily I think that just because that's the obvious answer, doesn't mean that that's like logistically the
Why they
right
did it.
answer.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you may be able to just flop that classroom, slide it over next to the other one and move that wing over.
Yeah.
and
And
keep
even if you
everything
had
else.
to take a couple of feet out of that corridor to make it work,
Yep,
like,
yep.
I think you can.
Especially in phase two, event like down the road once phase
Yeah.
two starts, it's
Yeah.
not like the other two at the same time where they can actually move kids to what they're gonna build in the first phase to then shut it down to build that corridor for phase two.
Right.
Now, do they want to keep the hallways that wide for potential down the road, turning that into a elementary school?
I don't think we need to.
No,
Again, I don't know all the reasons why they did it 20 years ago, but they thought they might expand to a middle school at some point. and
Yeah.
it was because of the lockers, so
Yeah.
technically an elementary school wouldn't require these wide.
Well, that's why I was
Yeah,
saying,
so-
are they keeping it for potential if they are going to move that in the future?
No,
It would never be a middle school.
yeah,
I think if anything, got brought up, Dan, it may become a elementary school, if anything, if need be.
maybe.
We don't know
yeah,
in that, so.
yeah, so, yeah.
But I'm
not
assuming the
long-term.
town would need a lot more growth, right?
Yes, a ton
Yeah.
of growth.
Correct.
Because we still have room probably, in some of our elementaries, right?
We do.
Yeah.
And we have plenty of room in the middle school and high school,
Okay,
Yeah.
so-
you know?
Yeah, it's kindergarten that, even if we build this out, I'm a little nervous that we might not have enough room. Because once you start offering full day kindergarten,
everybody's gonna influx back in.
yes,
Yeah.
that's
I know.
what I'm a little
I
nervous.
mean, I'm one of those parents that are looking at full-time kindergarten
Mhm.
outside elementary. And it's just, I mean, it's just crazy. the
Well,
schedule.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about the different phase options, or is everyone kind of sold on the whole enchilada?
I mean, I think it makes sense to do the whole.
I do too.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're like one of the only communities that it's gonna be a massive undertaking to offer full day kindergarten. That's the unfortunate part of it, is it's gonna cost the taxpayers. Whereas everybody else kind of transitioned through it slowly and
I mean, there were costs, but it wasn't the significant.
not
yeah,
this.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some other examples, but.
A lot,
yeah.
lot of districts had space,
Yeah,
so they didn't need to build a building.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
that took care of when enrollment dropped in a lot of communities, they had the space.
Yeah.
Where a lot of our space got taken by doing in-house special education.
Yep.
So that took up all our space, and now as you guys were made aware, all the services and programs we have is where all our space needs really are taking a hit right now.
Do we know of many other school districts across the state that actually had to build another building?
Not many. It's only up in Goffstown that are kind of caught in this conundrum. And then Bedford kind of is fairly happy with their fee model.
Right.
And that's about it. And then I think it's Hampstead that might be the other one.
Wow.
But they don't want to pay fees. They're kind of happy where they are, I think. I have to look back
That's
into
what
it.
it's,
So it's just,
So Bedford doesn't have full day?
no, yeah, basically they go half day and then if they want it, they pay to go for longer if they want to.
Oh, but they have the space.
Yeah, I think so.
Tuition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't think everyone goes, which is why they have the space, I think.
Interesting.
So if it was ever mandated, they have the space.
And I think a lot of people after Sununu kind of pushed it around 16 and 17, you can put 18 kids in a 900 square foot classroom and call it kindergarten.
Yeah.
That's where we're trapped.
Yeah.
We don't have all these 900 square foot classrooms in our other buildings to rely on, but everyone else did.
Not that I think it's the way to go, but the fee-based option, has that been discussed?
Yeah, years ago. When we did our first surveys, probably around 17 or 18, most of the community was like, why are you gonna ask me for tax dollars to pay for more teachers and then pay a fee too? Like, just do it. That was the majority. It wasn't popular.
Do we know what our numbers are for kindergarten enrollment versus first grade enrollment? To kind of get an idea of,
Yeah, I mean, over the last couple of years, we gained about 45 kids
Mhm.
to first grade. We actually just polled, on top of kindergarten,
Mhm.
we just polled the families right now, and about 2/3 of them told us they didn't come to Moose Hill because they wanted a full day option somewhere,
Mhm.
so.
45 into first grade, and Sandra said what, they were 207?
Yeah.
208.
And this is a really small class that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been
Well,
averaging 250.
If she was saying 208, and you had 45 to that, and the max they said was 300.
280, I think, was really where they
So I
wanted
mean,
to be.
if we gain that
Yeah.
from people going to first grade,
Yeah.
up to kindergarten, there's still a little leeway for extra.
I mean, I'm previewing next week's board meeting, but I think we can probably hit 340 in terms of kindergarten with this building. But that's, taking some things away, like maybe art gets pushed in or music gets pushed in, like we could probably hit 340. And those are numbers we haven't seen in 15, 20 years, So that's why, the enrollment study is kind of really important for us too. 250, no problem, 300, there's some things to think about. 340 is probably the max before we have major space issues again.
And the final design here with some of the stuff you guys just talked about, there is potential for additional classrooms by doing some of this shifting and
Yeah.
that to add.
Yeah.
That's my
possibly
biggest
three.
worry is it's not necessarily designing
Mhm.
for the added space, but we need to make sure that there's opportunity to.
Absolutely.
Because we're not just gonna pick up the school and move it somewhere else
That's correct.
within
Yeah.
our lifetime.
That's
So,
correct. But I think with
Yeah.
some of your thoughts
Yeah.
in that, if it does move forward and gets into design, that would be the conversations then with the staff and Dan, and the architect to prepare for the future
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta be able to prepare for the future where Woodlawn's fully built out.
Mhm.
You have all these other residential neighborhoods built out that are just even with the planning board right now.
and there's ones
And-
that aren't like just like planning farms.
Right,
It's actually-
exactly. And then you have the whole other end of, older members in our community will either move out of town.
Yep.
Or someone else buys their home.
Yep.
And that very well either may already have kids or be having kids at some point.
Yep.
And that could very well, flood the school district at some point.
But I think that's the biggest factor in the future is that generational turnover.
Londonderry's still a lot of dinosaurs.
And
It's true though, like
Yeah.
Londonderry
But the thing
is
is-
a lot of, I
But
lived here my whole life.
We're also
and-
seeing a lot of additional units put on because they're not moving out of their houses. Their kids are moving in with kids.
Yeah.
And then because their parents can't really go anywhere else. So the cheapest option is actually to just do additional units.
Well,
Yeah.
either the parents can't go anywhere
Right.
or
The
the
kids
kids
can't
can't
afford to
buy
buy a
anything,
house.
so they gotta move in together.
Yeah.
And then they have babies.
But on the other end, as you were saying, to either split it up or go the whole enchilada, I think we'd be costing the taxpayers more money by splitting it up into
Didn't I already vote on
Yes,
this?
you know,
Yeah,
we vote on this, why do you need more money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the numbers just don't make sense for it to be separated.
No.
Because I actually think it really, that's where I saw the numbers, like realistically, the separate projects, I think is gonna cost more than what they're saying.
Oh, wait.
Oh,
Well, I think-
he even said that.
I know, but I just wish like that
Yeah.
was, like, I think that should have been presented
I think-
Yeah, in
differently.
that way,
I
yeah.
think though it's, do we feel the whole thing will get approved, and if not, we just lose our shot of fixing the overcrowding. And that's when we just go forward.
And I
with
get,
one phase.
yeah, that's a good point.
That's been the conversation for a while, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think,
But I mean,
But that's why I wanted to make
yeah.
it clear, it's not like we vote on one now and one later, it's
Yeah.
later might not ever happen, but at least we can fix a problem
Mhm.
that's present.
Mhm.
And I don't.
And do we agree that it actually is fixing the problem?
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's what I also didn't get from, as I didn't feel confident that he was selling that.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Like, I think it was like really like tight. Yeah.
Agreed. I
And
felt-
based on our walkthrough, I was kind of like, I don't see how this would even
That-
work.
Leaving the modulars,
Yes,
Yeah.
how long the modulars been there?
5 years, 6 years, 5 or 6, yeah.
17.
Yeah.
17, 18 school
Yeah,
year.
yeah, 17, 18, yeah.
how much?
They just try to really escalate the price on us. So that's the problem with them, is that company is not a good source long-term. They try to gouge us like 20% increase or something.
Whoa.
Luckily, Lisa talked them down, but we still, that's only a 3-year lease, hoping we figure something out soon,
Right.
you know?
So
So 43 a year,
43 right now?
42 and some change.
Yeah. But,
I
yeah.
mean, that's the name of the game, right? They
Yeah.
want to get their foot.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
door, And then you don't have a
Yeah,
choice.
no, exactly, yeah. We saw it, yeah.
We just did one at North to move a program over there, and we were able to do a lease purchase
Yeah,
over 7 years.
Yeah.
Then we own it.
Yeah.
So these, unfortunately, they wouldn't even entertain, and if they did, the number was just, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why we
Yeah.
again went with somebody else.
Well, the hard part is the ones that you already have there, it's like.
Yeah.
You'd have to completely have them be removed and
And then
quickly
put back
replace
in.
them
Yeah.
Mhm.
with a different company.
And that's
Yeah.
sprinklers, alarm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything.
Everything
Yeah.
coming out,
Very
very
costly.
put in.
but, COVID confused everything, because we got them in there when and then we wasted a couple years there.
Numbers on the concrete and masonry, because that's what I do. So I'm not really familiar with anything else. I just did quick, that's really cheap, a square foot. I mean, like, really cheap. So on that, like, those numbers make,
And make
a
sure
lot
they're
of,
worried.
no, it makes a lot of, well, it's cheap, meaning it's good.
Well, it's
Like,
good.
The numbers
Yeah.
are good.
How
But
is
it's- yeah.
it,
Is it viable?
right, is it
Uh,
valid? Are they too low?
But is the square footage just the new concrete? Square footage?
So, well, that's what I'm like, that's questions that I would have is, what's the concrete if most of the building's gonna be masonry and steel?
Or most of it's existing, is that taken into the square footage?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they were clear, it was mostly not steel, it's all masonry and concrete.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, price increases on concrete, I mean, you know it as well as I do, it's ridiculous every year with price increases on concrete. I mean, the number works. I'm just scared that it's low.
Right, that's what I was trying to get.
Yeah,
at.
I'm
I'm
scared that
just
it's
saying though,
low.
they don't tell us what their square.
Yeah, they don't have, like, a
footage
number
is
in
that
there.
they're dividing it by to come up with the.
Well,
dollar per
I
square
just
foot.
took the price per square foot and divided it by their total,
What'd you get?
12,000.
Square feet.
Yeah, a little over 12,000. That's if you take them and divide them.
Yeah.
You know, your square foot for their total amount is gonna give you roughly what your square footage is, which is, I think it was like 12,400. You know, then I think it's gonna, I don't know how I did the math, but it came out to be, how did I do that?
So the phase 2 addition is 18,000 square feet.
And then each of the phase 1 and B is about 12,000 each.
Yeah, so that's what I came up with, was 12,400 square
Okay.
feet.
Okay.
So, I think it works. I think it's where it should be. I think it's a little low. I'm just going off of Trident's numbers. I didn't look at the other two.
Right.
I just went off of Trident's numbers because one of them was like, the first one.
The estimating company.
Yeah, no, not the estimating, because the estimating was actually the cheapest. Whoever the CM one was, there, to me, that number's a little bit better, and then the CM two was, I think, the lowest. Yeah, they were the lowest. They were $20 a square foot. I think somewhere around 30 is where it would probably be, honestly, at the end with an increase, because you gotta think they're not gonna start this really.
But you're
till-
looking at each phase or?
I'm only in phase one,
Oh, okay.
1A, is just what I started off at.
Did he have the escalation built in separately, or was
Yes.
that built into
That was
number?
separate. That was separate. So that's what I was saying with that percentage
Yeah.
increase, I think that's where we'll honestly end up being.
Yeah.
Especially come next year with the increase, because I know concrete's gonna go up. It's gone up every year for us for 10 years. I've been trying it.
Mhm.
And I know just rough I think it's, when I did the math real quick, it's gonna come out to be like 250 yards concrete roughly that they would need for that. So then I times it by roughly $250 a yard. So roughly concrete costs alone is probably roughly gonna be around, 50,000 just out of that. It makes sense, but, that's just what I know is just concrete masonry. So the other is kind of, I'm just going off of what the difference is between everyone else. So that phase, to me personally, I feel comfortable with. Between the phases, especially what the increase, percentage could be.
And I believe they had an escalation of, was it 8%?
Seven.
It's 8, no,
Was
I
it?
thought I saw 8%.
It's 8.
Yeah,
Is it
yeah, the contingency was
But that's
7.
overall is 8.
Yeah. What?
Oh, overall it's 8.
It's 8
Overall.
across the
Yeah,
project.
the contingency was, so
Yeah.
yeah. So those little numbers make total sense to me. Steel, I've seen steel, honestly, we've been getting decreases in steel. So that, I don't, like, that is totally fine to me, because we've been getting decreases monthly from the amount of steel that we've been getting. Pre-COVID, it was really low. Same thing with lumber. And then,
And it shot up.
COVID shut up. I mean, just our steel mats tripled per mat. And now they've dropped. They're kind of hovering in between what it used to be to what it was during COVID. So, all that stuff, like, I'll call it the hardscape stuff of the project. When I looked over the numbers, to me, I'm fine with those numbers. Looking at that is totally fine to me, personally, being in the field. So like looking at that, I just kind of bounced back on what everything else was, and it makes sense. And that's why I think it makes sense to do all as one, because we don't know what anything's gonna be, even next year.
Oh, yeah.
Is security a separate contract? Like, like all the door,
No, we have an in-house guy that does a lot of the work.
okay,
He does a lot of the video cameras and the wiring.
Okay.
So now we hired someone, I think, 3 years ago.
okay, so that's outside of this budget?
I think it might be. I think some of the wiring, all that stuff
Okay.
might be there, but the actual person would still
Okay,
help.
well, I was just wondering, like, all the doors.
I don't think he ever sent the sheet with the blue, did he, that had an FF&E?
No, we
No.
did-
Yeah.
I was looking for that.
Okay.
Because we have, our one number was just the construction, but then
Yeah,
the other one added like another 6
Oh,
million.
from Mark? From
yeah,
Trident?
mhm,
Yeah,
I think he said he had to do something with that, I think. he-
that's right, because he
Yeah.
only wants so much
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then he never,
public right now.
yeah.
Now, Bob, what are you seeing for escalations year over year for concrete?
It's kind of all over the place right now.
Mhm.
Cost of raw materials is still escalating. Concrete, as Dave said. But everything else, I mean, we're not into the building part of it, we're just concrete construction.
Right.
And that, the numbers are up because of labor shortage, not so much materials anymore. That's kind of plateaued. But the labor shortage is driving, you want something done, you're gonna pay for it.
I don't think that's gonna change.
No.
No,
You know.
we're in
I
that
don't
for a
think
while.
I'll make it worse.
Yeah,
But I will tell you that I think the school work is gonna get more competitive because the industrial work is phasing out.
Mhm.
So everybody is gonna be coming after school work. That's always happens with the up and down economy, as you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That you're gonna chase more school
Everyone's
work and
trying
it's
to
gonna
scoop
become
up all the
more,
backlog.
so they keep their backlog upward as for their bonding capabilities and overhead costs.
Yeah.
So the timing may come into play perfect.
Yeah.
Because you see all these big Amazons and that they've been shut down and taken off the plate. There's one up at Hooksett that got pulled because of financing, a 1 million square foot building. So a lot of that's happening in the industry where schoolwork's gonna become more competitive because, yeah, there'll be a labor shortage, but yet people still wanna work. So when that's gonna hit, I mean, you see it now. You don't see as much work bidding.
I see.
Yeah, the recession
And
is
that's-
kind of here now and.
Yeah,
government works.
and jobs have been pulled just because of the cost.
I see.
And the people aren't there. So to your point, I think it's leveled off. I think the good trades are getting their markups and their costs because they've raised their labor to keep people. But others are having a tough time. A lot of people aren't making money. So.
And what did you think with the casework and all the carpentry, since that's under background?
Everything looks pretty good numbers wise. I mean, I think it's within line to today's rate. It's just predicting the future is the hardest thing. And whether you start going into a recession, like Bob was saying, that things are gonna get a lot more competitive.
Mm.
So you might have an advantage of this, or it could go the other way still. It's just a
Keep
weird.
moving and
Yeah, I think, like has been said, we do this now, because it's only gonna get more expensive as we wait. Especially if doing it in the phases, like, they weren't broken, they were just broken down into costs, but it wasn't
I
separate
tried
job
getting them-
costs. Yeah.
getting that out of them last week, and they wouldn't really commit to.
I don't think they committed to pricing it out that way.
I don't think
And
they
I wish
wanted to
they
go
had,
there.
because I think it would have been a huge selling.
Mhm.
I know why it was done, because it's like, we question whether the taxpayers are gonna foot the bill.
Right.
But I think people also don't wanna pay so much extra,
Right.
yeah.
But I think it should have been done for the numbers for
I
phase
heard
two.
the
was-
opposite, that it was, I thought they were priced individually and there was no savings for the combined, if they weren't willing to give that at this time. So those three prices are individual projects.
Well, they are, but like, they didn't really look into like what it would cost to actually phase the project.
Right, in
Yeah.
like 2-3
Like
years.
if they
We
packed up
accept
and
all
did
three,
Yeah.
but not do,
Right.
Yeah, it was
Oh.
only
I don't
forecasted
think it
till
would've been
25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm not, it just would have been nice with this conversation to
Mhm.
know what that was. I'm not saying we would have presented that to the voters, but I think like there is actually quite a bit of savings.
Doing the whole project.
Yeah.
I agree, but I think it's
I think they would agree,
the safe
but
thing.
they have not been asked specifically, can you figure out what that is? And I
No,
think
I
they
know.
probably could.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and if we did phase it in, I mean, it would be in a way sort of 3 projects, because you have, it's like 1A, 1B, and then 2.
And you're gambling.
And you're gambling with the voters, but you're also gambling what the forecasted increasing in pricing would be. So if 1A was voted in next year, okay, we have that price. But then 1B, that could be another year, 2 years out. Who knows what cost increases would be? And then 2 would be another couple years past that. And you're looking at phase 2 could be not 8% increase. It could be 20-30% increase.
And I think if it's presented like that, the taxpayers, they're just gonna instantly just vote no. Meaning you can break it out
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
far. It's not even gonna be a question in anyone's mind.
Yeah, I would say as soon as we decide to only vote on one phase, the others go, that price is no
Yeah.
longer valid.
mean, it would just be nice to know, like, these builders, what they could potentially forecast, see.
I think they would just add more escalation to each phase.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's what I'm trying to get at, is like, how much more of an escalation would, they want to put on further out, or if we looked at, phasing out every 2-3 years.
I think it's hard for them to even predict that.
And even if they did a
But I
conservative
mean,
for
they
a
do,
year.
but the thing is they do that. I mean, that's what their estimating department does. That's the whole point of the job, is to actually come up with that. There's a science behind it.
Right.
So it's actually not that difficult for them to do, because that's, I mean,
I don't
developers.
think anyone wants to have certainty though, to put a number out there, say, if 5 years from now, we'll stand behind how we came up with it.
And I don't think they would stand behind it, but
No,
an
I
estimate is
mean,
an estimate, that's
yeah.
the definition. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
It's not set.
it's forecasting what the future could be, but even if you just did a conservative, even 7% increases, you'd have to be able to look at, every year increasing of 7% between labor, benefits, materials, and so forth.
Because it's not 7% on $100,000 project.
Right.
It's a significant dollar amount.
Right.
When you're in the millions, it adds up quick.
Millions become
Because-
millions
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
on a percentage.
Phase 2 alone was 12, right?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
11.
7.
Phase 2 is 11,068.
So even if we did conservatively 1 year out, be an extra 840 on 12 million. That's 1 year out.
Millions become millions.
Right. And all of a sudden that quickly, if we push out phase 2, even 3-4 years, and that multiplies pretty quickly.
and if they're coming back, if they're picking up and coming back, it's gonna cost you.
Oh, yeah, because you have all the overhead costs of coming back and forth, and all that trailer work to come back and forth.
Trucking and all that, yeah,
Exactly.
it's, yeah. Unless there's a certainty, they're not gonna wanna even entertain that, I don't think.
Well, they may not even want to bid on the other phases,
Yeah,
because they don't know if they'll get it at that point.
exactly, yeah.
Or they don't know what their pricing could be, or if they'll be available.
So we think that the decision would be to do it all in one phase. That's what's best for the numbers, that's what's best for the taxpayers, and what's best for town holistically,
Yes.
Based on the needs.
based on the needs, yeah.
And yeah, these are definitely needs.
And I think having our plan of redesigning how it fits on the site could really fit better for the future.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Without it costing more money,
Right.
yeah.
And if it was to move forward, that would be part of the administration, making sure it works in their world. as
Yeah, I'm
long
assuming
as-
like this plan, because it's schematic level, can be modified
Oh, yeah.
as needed, as long as the numbers weren't right.
Dan and Sanders spent a lot of time with the architects once
Yeah.
they had all the input and the data from the committee and that, and came up with this schematic
Mhm.
to put some pretty hard numbers on where we are today, so.
Yeah.
But it's great getting you folks that are in this world every day. Does it make sense to do the numbers they presented, work? And then it'll be a long process of trying to get support, moving forward, if that's the recommendation, depending on what the school board does, once that's presented, so.
I think pricing in the market is pretty dead on to me. I mean, I've looked at it every day at work when I have downtime, and it makes sense to me. It meets the New Hampshire standard for code for what they need. It has room for growth for numbers of what they have now for enrollment to what, you were saying potentially we could get. And I know that was like the biggest thing is does it work? And it works number wise, to me, it works, and I think it all has to be done in one phase to make it work for what they need.
So it could potentially cost
Double,
millions more.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're not gonna go to the taxpayers, and, oh, we need another addition on this
Right.
building.
Yeah.
Like, we just did
For the
one.
amount of money that we'd be asking, it'd be different if it was like something, like a different use of something, but it wouldn't be.
Right, and I think what
Yeah.
Casey said earlier is if we can have, maybe like an open house at the kindergarten, or, the community to go look, to actually see what they're
If you-
dealing
yeah.
But
with.
just
When
like
we saw
parking,
it, yeah.
just parking at like an open house like that,
Mhm.
people
It'd be
would be
nuts.
baffled
Yeah.
at that, like if people actually show up,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
like they would be baffled that they would have to park on the street
And then they
or
would
down the
see
driveway
you know,
and walk that far.
phase 1A and 1B, they're gonna go, yeah, they need that. And at that point, I think it's an automatic selling point to go through with, the phase 2. If they can see why they need 1A and 1B, to me, that's the selling point to go to like potential full day in phase 2. If people don't see it, like you have to see it to believe it.
I mean, it'd be worthwhile to have, at least advertised in different parts of town and 55+ neighborhoods
Yep.
of, come have a tour of the kindergarten.
Yep.
And explain
Mhm.
the lack of space and why we have a lack of space for our student population who are there. And they may say, oh, you have a building, you're fine, right? Well, no, it's not meeting the actual needs for our students who are here.
Or start taking pictures of what it is now
Mhm.
and making,
Cardboard
yeah, like,
dividers.
yeah, exactly. Like showing them,
Yeah,
because there's also a lot of people that just don't care because they don't have kids in kindergarten, but at the same time, they had them at one point.
Yep, yep.
So I
and their
think,
grandchildren could be in there.
Yeah.
so I think if they can visually see, if they can't make a meeting or something in the future for like the selling points.
I'm sure if it moves forward, Dan, go ahead, Dan.
No, we did it in May, so we have them. We have some
Okay.
of those pictures,
Yeah.
Okay.
so reproducing that would probably be the easiest part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
that's nice to put like on something like this that shows
Yep.
1A, and then they can show pictures of what is existing, and then,
And then have like a rendering of what it could be.
Exactly.
Yeah, what it would be.
to
Yeah.
show the difference of, okay, yeah, that does, like,
Yeah.
some of these rooms, for like the autistic kids and
Yep.
everything, those dividers just, so when my son just went there,
Yeah.
last year, so I didn't get to see that.
Yeah.
That just baffled me, like, I couldn't even
For each
believe,
student having an age.
yeah,
and
I
And
couldn't,
they're in that little,
teacher, And
12 teachers, 12
there's like
kids,
6 of us in the room.
I was-
That's awesome.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was awful, actually, when we
I don't know how
were
they do it.
I was blown away.
Well, school wasn't made for it,
Yeah.
we're trying to adapt to different needs,
Yeah.
and that's the hardest thing,
I think the nice thing is you guys have invested the money in an OPM and architect at this stage
Mhm.
where they're on board helping that task as well. That's where I find it most helpful, right? With
Mhm.
flyers, websites, whatever
Yeah.
it is. So I think that's a huge,
Mhm.
selling point
Yeah.
and also not money wasted, but if it doesn't get approved or move forward, it's like we've spent all these resources also to date. Like now is the time to.
And that should get up too, that we've already
And
spent
that would
money,
be-
yeah.
Probably from you folks, part of
Yeah.
that is just, what you said is,
Yeah.
is the reason this committee got put together was to, look through this, vet it to that degree,
Mhm.
that this is what,
How long
you
have they been
recommend.
working on this for?
Ooh,
forever.
Yeah.
I think we started the conversation around 2017,
Okay,
but then
wow.
COVID slowed everything down. I think we finally, the master planning process started in 19,
19, fall of 19,
but it took us 2 years to get there because of
Yeah.
COVID.
right,
So we didn't really have the master plan until
so it was like
21.
finished in 21?
And
the
then,
master
Yes.
plan,
Yeah.
and then,
but, the way it landed, it didn't land well at first, and we had to correct that for 6 months. Like, the whole-
What do you mean it didn't land well?
It just was not handled well at the time, in
Oh,
terms of like, here's our master plan.
Okay.
right,
Let's go spend $300 million. That did not
right.
land well. So we had to kind of like slow things
Back up,
down,
back up
talk
a little
about 20
bit.
years, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Only some of these projects could have been done before COVID.
Yeah.
I would say you've been well over a year, Dan, with the committee,
Oh, yeah, the kindergarten committee
But-
was,
for the full day option as well as the space needs.
Oh, yeah.
We started.
Yep.
With just that little addition off the back 1A.
Yep.
But then when they get into it.
Yeah.
With the programs, we were out of space everywhere, and that's why the hallways are
Yeah.
used as much as you folks
Yeah.
seen
Mhm.
and Sandra explained. And that's what a lot of people, and I said at the last meeting, kindergarten isn't what it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's totally changed.
Mhm.
So people that, they hear kindergarten, why do you need all the
and the
space
amount
and
of
why do you need
services
this and the
is like
service?
crazy.
And that's that'll be part of the staff and marketing through La Valley, depending on which route the board goes. So all the input's gonna be valuable for the architect to start marketing and getting information out in community forums and open houses and.
I know
Oh, sorry.
it's a hard question, but like, how long can the school as it is sustain until?
Not much longer, you know?
Yeah.
But like in all
Yeah,
seriousness,
yeah.
because as someone that doesn't have kids in
Yeah.
school a lot, they're gonna sit there and be like, well, you've somehow figured it out, right? It's been overcrowded, you've been at 280 before, like.
Yeah.
So I just wanna have it can only go so long before we do
Yeah.
actually hit, there's like zero space left. If you got rid of every art room, every
Yeah.
closet,
It-
every.
It'll be like when if the portable company's like, no, we want another 40 grand.
Yeah.
Then that'll kind of cause a little crisis. What do we do? And that's where we start to have all these issues and.
And that comes out of the operating budget?
Operating budget, yeah,
Correct.
yeah. And in general, I think what's good about Moose Hill is, with families and students with IEPs, you want to create a good relationship. You want them to be happy. This is their first place. So if they come in and they're not happy, that already starts an antagonistic relationship, which is never good. And it carries out to the rest of their school years. So they've been able to make it work, but I think, if a family comes in and be like, why are there 12 adults in this room with my kids? And they're stuck in a little cubicle. What are you guys doing? Like that hasn't happened yet. But there's a potential for that.
So my daughter was started in Salem School District, and this is when like they had just grown to full day kindergarten, and she had like the space was completely different. When we moved halfway through the year to Londonderry, she not only went down to half day, but she also went into that sort of, and I've never like went in there. And now I understand why we went through like the adjustment period, because it was probably was such a shock to her
Right.
system that she didn't have the space she had. She didn't have like a quieter space, like all of these things. And so walking through that, I was a little emotional because I just was like, oh my God, like it makes sense. And I just had no idea as a parent that that's what actually was happening. And I mean, it breaks my heart because it's like, there's nothing that the staff can do differently. They're working with, I mean, I couldn't work like that, realistically, like.
And
what I did, so.
I think as a district, and if I'm wrong, we can make adjustments in elementary level, middle school and high school a lot easier
Yeah.
than pre-K, K,
Yeah,
and that
Yeah.
because of that area with their first time to
Yeah.
Dan's point, coming into
Yeah.
a building
Yep.
and, leaving mom and dad and
Yep.
needing the services.
like a
at that young
neurotypical
age.
child struggles with it, so
Yeah,
anybody
yeah.
who has anything different, I mean, that's
Yeah.
even,
It's harder.
yeah, it's hard.
And,
So.
and the better service they get in this building is gonna hopefully help them move out of it in second, third, fourth, fifth grade,
Right,
and that, with that service early on.
Yeah.
So,
I think one of the big things that I was noticing is the expansion in the nursing healthcare part of the building, where with how
Yeah.
tiny that room is right now, I'm incredibly impressed with what they're able to accomplish, but all the students that have health
Yeah.
issues that go there,
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, I'm surprised not even designing a larger room for it
Yeah. Yeah.
than
That's
just
part of it.
having the 3 beds for it, so.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a huge piece to be able to tell people that, and it's tough because, there's HIPAA laws, we can't talk about how many children have health needs or who needs what, but,
we can
Having
have
people-
percentages, but.
right, if we
Yeah.
could get at least a percentage of sorts of like, how many kids need a certain amount of health aid throughout the day,
Yep.
and say that, we're doing it in such a small room, we really need to expand this to
Mhm.
really get to the right needs for the children, so that they are taken care of properly.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge piece as well to this.
It changes their moods completely when they
Mhm.
have the space that they
Do-
need, yeah.
Other towns have the same in-house programs and offer the same level and deal with.
I think there's a range, and I think it's more cost effective, so more and more towns are kind of, implementing their own version of it. I think statewide, the autistic numbers are very high, and they keep on growing, so that I think everyone's seen that.
But if
But
it's not in-house,
you have to pay for out of district, so if a student has an IEP and you can't service them in your district, you have to go find a private school, and pay them 100 or 200, maybe $300,000 for that kid out of the taxpayer dollars.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
it does save us money in the end, but it takes up space and, all those things, So every year in the budget, we kind of go through the exercise, how we do save money. And it's, better for the families and the kids to have it, in their community. But
And I think I remember when Nate Greenberg was superintendent,
Yeah.
at one point, he said it was multiple millions of dollars that we've saved the
Oh, yeah.
taxpayers by having these in-house programs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not cheap.
no, they're not cheap.
It's not cheap
Yeah,
to
like-
go to other out of
Yeah,
town.
yeah.
And,
the
I
fact
mean,
that
that's
the
also my-
taxpayers have to pay for that compared to the.
That's
individual
also
families.
why people come to Londonderry. I think people don't understand that these services aren't always, one, they're not always great, so they're not all equal, right? So Londonderry has I would consider Londonderry has a higher standard of who they hire. They also have a budget that some other districts cannot support.
Right.
So, their staff are just very qualified. I wouldn't say that is equal in every district. So
Yeah.
people who are moving to Londonderry are, expect a certain level of, services for their kiddos, so that they don't have to go private.
Right.
So, or, do 100 hours of outpatient therapy in a week, so.
Dan, how far away would be the nearest location that you would go for care for your child? If you want to,
They're all over. It kind of depends on the needs. Like some of them are, within a 20 to 30 minute drive. Some of our kids do go to Massachusetts based on their needs.
Mhm.
There's a big long bus drive. Like it does happen,
Yeah.
And there's some kids who are residential that like literally live there. That's a whole nother cost.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
all right.
So do we want to take like a vote or like a motion, I guess, a motion to what we push forward?
Sure.
Okay.
Can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
And again, you do not need to listen to it. Where we're at right now, if you guys wanted to make a motion, here's some preliminary findings, so you don't hamstring yourselves to it.
Right.
And if there's other things the board needs from you guys, then you can like go into depth. Because what I heard was a lot of good, high-level preliminary findings. You can start there
Mhm.
and then see what comes next. I don't know, that's just what I was thinking when I listened to you guys the whole
You mean at the board meeting or tonight?
tonight. And if you're ready for the board meeting, it doesn't need to be a big thing. It's like, here's like our 5 or 6 bullet points of some of the things we talked about. Here's some preliminary findings we want to share, if you're ready. But if you're not ready, it's okay. We just have to kind of script it out, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, does somebody want to start with a motion?
I will make the motion that we recommend to the school board that the renovations and expansion at the garden would be to have a full day construction, which would be the all encompassing 1A, 1B, and phase 2 altogether. For one vote. I'll second
As
it.
a preliminary
From the preliminary findings.
finding.
Is there someone want to second that?
I'll-
Okay. Everybody agree? Anybody oppose? Okay, hearing,
All in favor?
all in favor, yeah. Hearing everybody agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hearing no one, saying nay. We're moving forward with this motion. Did you write all that down, or do you want to go over it?
I'm writing it down.
What are everyone's thoughts? A school board meeting next week?
Yes.
Tuesday.
Next
First.
Tuesday.
There's an option to do the week or the 17th,
There is.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys are ready for.
and then I
Yeah.
guess B. Do we just want to speak, gather?
I think,
We need like a slide at least to say like who we all are.
that was a good notion from, Tony from last week of
Mhm.
going into who we are so that we'll create our own validity.
Yeah.
email on up like years of experience in the field, what our current position is. You know, we'll put that onto the slides, and we can say like, we have
We
a
just put our
combined.
resume on the slides.
I
That would
don't
be
know,
too-
I wouldn't do your resume. I would actually just do like what you would call like a summary, like, of,
Yeah.
you know, you have so many years of experience doing A, B, and C.
Mhm.
You don't even have to like say the, like, places you work, like, I would just,
You said like cost estimating
Yeah.
and
yeah, project management or, you know, whatever.
You know, you've been in the field of masonry for almost 18 years, right? 10 years, and that's basically what we're looking for. We're not looking for the full detail.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, in the end, we can also combine it together, saying that between the five of us, we have so many odd years of experience
Yeah.
in the construction industry.
Yeah. So,
And I think, you know, having you as the chair on the board, as an architect, I think really carries a lot of weight. So I was really impressed that they get to be on.
so I think if you guys all send me like your summaries,
Mhm.
I can compile it, and then I can send it over to him, and he can make it look pretty.
Yeah.
On slide.
Apparently.
With the
really good at making
logo
things
and all
look
that.
pretty.
I
Me
have
too.
the PowerPoint. if you-
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
I can tell
Perfect.
that-
So I'm like, my schedule is like literally,
It's
like,
okay.
this is squeezed in,
Yeah.
my schedule right now. My kid, he's playing 3 soccer teams right now. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning, work, get out, and then it's soccer till 9 o'clock at night usually.
Yep.
Friday nights are my only nights off, and I enjoy it. But it's like, I don't
Okay,
get time to do
So I'll
much.
send it to you then.
Perfect.
Yes.
There you go.
And then if you have like your look, like the logo and
Yeah, I
stuff,
can-
you can
yeah,
just
I
send it to
can-
her,
yeah.
put in, and we can make
Yeah.
it look, I don't know.
I just told the logos off.
I know I won't have time to like put it together, so,
Yeah, I am.
because I'm leaving for Texas on next Wednesday, so.
So do we want to get in this on Tuesday?
So I think that's the question,
Before we get there, do you
Yeah.
guys want to take any stance on the cost? It seems like you guys are okay with them. I don't know if the board wants to hear.
well,
from you
yeah, I
guys,
think that's what we need, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically what you guys
Yeah.
have
We
kind
were
of gone
Yeah.
through, that you're comfortable with where they're at.
Preliminary. you know.
Preliminary.
preliminarily, but
Yeah.
I think our big worry is potentially to go back to the in-house estimating department and try to, and say, is this 8% escalation
Sure.
reality, or is this hopeful?
Yeah. Yep.
Or is it really more like
Mhm.
10 to 15%?
Mhm.
When does the school board vote on the amount that would be part of the warrant?
That'll come up through the budget season, but at the end, so
Yeah.
early January.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of ways
We
it can
got-
play out. Let's say the school board says, I want to do this. They can say in October, I want to do this. The numbers could come later, or they can say sooner, this is what we want to put on the warrant, and they can say it in November. They have up until December, but I think, you know, the size and scale of this, you know, the small window we had last year to talk about, you know, boilers and things was enough. This is a huge project.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
kind of need a big window to talk about it. So I think, it's my hope
Yes.
that we figure it out sooner.
Correct.
Because January and February, trying to sell, you know, potentially $34 million, I don't know if that goes well, you know?
And then the other question is the numbers that we received
Mhm.
and that Trident has gone over, when did they receive those numbers from the construction company?
I think they got everything kind of by the end of July, early August, and then he began his like month-long due diligence.
Yeah.
So he had a
Because
month.
even as I see, you know, month to
Yeah.
month pricing could change.
Yeah.
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 So that's why I worry about like,
Mhm.
you know, getting the numbers.
The thing is, the drawings are shown
Schematic.
schematic
Yeah,
and
like-
napkin that like,
Yeah.
no one's taking things
Yeah, you
off.
can't
They're
really
like,
bid off of that.
It's hard,
It's an estimate of.
of course.
Yeah.
Worry about, you know, if price changing could go up or down between July, August to
Mhm.
December, January. That's the only thing is, you know.
Well, what we
do
relied
without
on-
bidding numbers.
With the OPM and bring Trident in
Mhm.
back in 19,
Mhm.
was their expertise in doing this, because all school districts do this.
Mhm.
All municipalities do this.
Yeah.
Is they don't want to go to, we don't want to spend $250,000 or $500,000 to do full-blown drawings
Right.
and then have it put on the shelf.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem, is they have to do it, and that's the reason Londonderry School District went with an OPM they never had before. So we're not throwing hundreds of $1,000s away, we're hiring their professionalism. We spent about, I think about $18,000. We budgeted 25 for them to get pricing from 2 general contractors and an estimating. And then he, like he showed us last week, was able to go decipher through it and took with their professionalism and knowing what's going on there every day and put it together to come up with these numbers.
That's really
So-
impressive that we were able to get these numbers for that cheap of money.
Yeah.
Because if you want to get estimating done like this from any other company, it would be at least be 10, 20 grand per company.
Yeah.
On, no,
Well, that's the advantage of having tried it. You know,
That's right.
They know everyone, they can.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing, like, that's a resume is that
Yeah.
stuff, so, you know, it was smart to do that, I mean, and they just built a bunch of schools on the street, so they
Yeah.
kind of know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, like, even though escalation number is concerning to me, because I just don't see that number low on any project, like, I also realize there's some savings with them, and they have savings with people that they, you know,
Yep.
that they know, so.
Well, the nice thing is, you know, no one's trying to get the job.
That's
and
right.
Yes.
Submitting a low number right now, where everyone wants the job to move forward and have
Yeah.
a realistic approach to set it up for success. So we're not at like the CM competitive stage yet, where it's be like, oh, it's $4 million less, but
Right.
then we have an issue.
Good point. Yeah, good point. So,
so I mean, I guess really the big question would be for Trident would be is, what is your reality on that 8% escalation?
right.
That's a
Yeah,
good question.
I think the question, I think they wouldn't have put it out there
Yeah.
if it wasn't, because they're not gonna, you know, representing Londonderry School District. And knowing that you folks are looking at it this way, the building committee put it together to be schematically drawn, that, you know, they put a number out there, it's not gonna move.
Of course.
So, but to reinforce what you guys have questions on, it's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience, just like, I just wouldn't have put an 80% number on there, but
What kind of percentage would you put?
probably closer to like 12, 15.
And that's
And I just-
what he's seeing in the concrete area
Yeah.
every year, and
I see about 10%.
which is what I'm seeing as well.
And if you want, you know, you can reach out and talk with Mark,
Yeah,
you know, a couple of yous, and just, you know, kind of get that word back to the committee, and if you have a question for Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just before the meeting,
yeah,
you know, and that way it'll,
Yeah.
you might be able to add a little more to it, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, if we can somehow get that information from them
Yeah,
right before the meeting. so
Yep.
We can have a bit more confidence
Yep.
presenting that.
yeah, no, I think that the whole task for them was to come up with a number that's solid enough to make it on a warrant article.
Mhm.
But from my conversation with Mark, we can kind of look at some of the soft costs too.
Right.
And, you know, kind of see where some of the assumptions are and look at that and really go into the weeds before a final number is determined if the school board goes ahead.
And he said there
But
would
this
be,
number's out there, right?
Yes,
yes, yeah.
yes.
And he said there would be a savings, as you alluded to earlier, that doing it all at once, rather than phasing it out over periods, it would be some savings, they just won't commit to what that
I
is.
agree with that.
Yeah.
message.
So that may offset some of the escalation,
Yeah.
As well.
I mean, Yeah,
That and the design contingency.
yeah.
correct?
And then there's the other end,
Definitely
financially,
25%.
that Justin from the town finance department had agreed with the school finance person that if we're doing a bond for a larger number, we actually get a better bond
Yeah.
rate compared to splitting these up into smaller
true.
projects.
Yep.
So that also saves us money,
Mhm.
surprisingly.
So we're happy to have you guys on Tuesday,
Yeah.
you know? No, and we can, I can certainly help put together whatever presentation you
okay.
guys need, you know? We do it all the time.
Are you guys,
Do you want me to, I can put some outline slides together that then maybe people can fill in, like,
Mhm.
with the needs.
I think that'll be,
And, like, I can talk a lot to the validation and put points, but I'll put something else circulated, hopefully by Friday.
okay.
and then everyone can add to whatever your thoughts, you know, are to the points,
Yeah.
and then it can final.
I'll have my stuff.
final
done
slide
by
or
the
something,
Yeah.
just to hit all the points.
Yeah.
I guess we can talk about how we present. the chair. Sacrificial.
I just want to make sure, the only thing I worry is I just want to make sure I'm not too exhausted on Tuesday night. That's all. That's my only concern, because I have 2 zoning board meetings and a planning board meeting. I have a lot of stuff going on before, so it's a lot of talking.
Are those meetings before our 7 o'clock meeting?
It's not on the same day.
Oh.
She just knows what she.
No, I just know, like,
They're
Yeah.
my
drinking.
Tuesday
Yes.
night,
Yeah.
it's just,
I'm in the worst meeting.
you know, I also have 3 children. I don't have school stuff. So I don't, like, I'm okay with presenting, I just want to make sure I'm not.
Yeah.
And that I'm presented
Oh.
comfortable with presenting.
I can always, do we want to meet? I know it's hard, but like, even at 6 that night?
Before the meeting.
Just to go over.
Yeah.
Get everything
Yeah.
together, so we're on the same page.
Is the meeting at
We
the, always
lost
at the
at
high
3.
school?
High school cafeteria,
Yes.
and you guys would be first.
Yeah, we can put you first, right at 7:05.
Be ready for the heck.
And then once the presentation's done, I can email it to someone and they'll handle the
Yep.
whole.
You should email it to me and Teresa,
Okay.
and then we'll get it, we'll get it all ready. Yep.
Is everyone okay with that? I don't want you to
Meeting at
feel
6.
all of it, like,
Like doing it
Yeah.
Tuesday.
this
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Because I don't want you guys to feel pressured. Just
No,
as
of course.
I just feel like get it over. with,
Yeah.
Like, it-
Yeah.
Well, no, I agree, and I think they need more time.
Yes.
Like, I think
We
giving
all
them
agreed
as
on
much
it,
time,
so
yeah.
we all agreed what we wanted
Yeah.
to do, so I think it's, the faster it gets to them, I think the faster they can do
Clean it.
their job
Yeah.
to then present it to the community to hopefully get it passed. I think the longer we wait, the more insecurities there could be about things
Mhm.
to the public,
Yeah, I
so.
think the biggest thing is we just need to say, there's validation in this project, and then we can clean it up
Yeah.
as we move on.
Mhm.
But we just gotta get it passed off.
Yeah, I
to
think it
them.
needs to be clear that there's a very, like, this is a very small percentage of what their fee is right now, like, to, like, you know, there's this whole other part that's gonna happen, but, the
Right.
numbers make sense and,
If approved, it will then
Yes.
go through a very
Yeah.
detailed process to
Yes.
keep us
Yeah.
on budget and get
Yeah.
the program needed in
Yes.
one.
and that we're still involved.
Right.
Too,
No, we're not stepping away.
Your information really is for the school board,
right,
to make them understand what they're seeing and what's been presented on the building part of it.
is there anything that you feel that that's people on the board actually are concerned about or don't understand?
I don't,
Okay,
you know, we haven't really talked about it,
Okay.
you know, we're letting you folks do your work and then
Okay.
present to
Has
them.
the kindergarten committee presented?
Yes,
Many, many times.
many
Okay.
times.
Okay, so we
And what-
don't have to really focus
Just-
on
Yeah.
yeah,
Just what
needs
you
in wants,
did,
just we
but
heard the needs in
Right.
wants
Yeah.
and this fulfills. them.
Yeah.
So we're more addressing the construction needs and the financial.
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah.
the numbers that have been presented and,
Right.
you know, Real
what,
simple.
what kind of questions did the board ask of the committee? I mean,
I
I'm
think,
assuming they're gonna ask questions.
yeah,
right?
I think we've answered all the major questions
yeah, I
about the Lake
don't know
kindergarten.
that you get many questions.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
we put this together so you guys could look at the
Okay.
presentation we already received.
Yeah, okay.
So now
I
you
think we're
guys are
just-
valid.
we're checks and balances
No, I
in
know, I just
town.
wanna be prepared, like, 'cause
Yep.
sometimes you walk in and it's like, a couple people are ready, you know? So
Yeah,
I just
no.
wanna make sure that we're answering questions.
They're engaged and they,
Yeah.
you know, they're really, you know, 2 of the board members have been a big part of the kindergarten committee
Okay, well, that's good.
from the inception, from when they've been on the board. You know,
That was
So-
this lady, that's how you know?
No, she was,
No.
she's
she
like
was
an
on the
advisor.
kindergarten committee.
Yeah, she's an
Yeah.
advisor, I think, right?
Yeah.
She was an advisor.
Or the,
She was on the kindergarten.
Yeah.
She was on the
Nancy,
kindergarten, she was a former school board member,
Yeah,
Not anymore.
Nancy, yeah,
yeah.
Gotcha.
who are the school board members who were on the,
Kevin and Amanda.
and I guess to lead off her questions before, were there any questions from the board for Trident when they presented the presentation about a month ago?
Not really. It's very, very high level, in terms of the costs, you know.
Yep.
No, I mean, I think the only kind of question out there right now is a sudden drop in enrollment. So I'll talk a little bit on Tuesday night, you know, how things could adjust, kind of some of the things we already talked about, but in the end, school board just has to decide what do they want to do.
Right.
Do they want to move ahead? If they don't, that's okay. If they do want to move ahead, what does that look like?
And I know what was mentioned before, but someone was maybe forgetting the numbers. What would potential new aid from the state be to move the full day at that time?
Yeah, and I had that in the May presentation. I'll have to dig that up.
I think that would be helpful for
Yeah.
Tuesday's meeting.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I mean, the confusing part about it to the public is this is a capital investment. The operating budget investment comes in 3 years.
Mhm.
You know, so like, that's the hard thing to explain too.
Right.
But I mean, from what we saw, there's enough revenue gains and enough savings in like midday bus runs and things. It won't be hugely dramatic, but I gotta get those numbers, kind of wrap our heads around it again, you know?
Because there's some people in town, they say, well, you're moving the full time, that's gonna be costing so much more money. More teachers, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
But they don't understand the revenue end coming
Yeah.
back from the state
Mhm.
as well, the other costs.
Offset
And I'm
some
sure
of
the
it.
transportation cost is not cheap
That's huge.
for midday.
It's like, it was like 300 grand we saved.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, yeah,
Yeah.
the midday restaurants, yeah.
I mean, those buses, there's sometimes only 2 kids on, like,
I
kind of
know.
like.
Yeah.
But you gotta provide it.
You gotta
Yeah.
provide it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's a couple of teachers with it.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
Well, thank you.
Oh, and I guess one other thing, I guess, building construction wise, I know they weren't really talking much about HVACs for the buildings.
Oh, yeah, so I do want to
The
bring that up.
Utilities line with it.
Yeah,
But
Mhm.
I feel like we're not doing the full due diligence if we don't do proper HVAC for the facility.
yeah, I agree
Especially
with
where a
that.
lot of kids are very sensitive with temperature changes.
So that is a big thing that I've heard, like, in general. It's one of the biggest complaints that teachers have, is that kids are just so uncomfortable
Yep.
and they check out very early.
Doing
I
a
just-
dehumidifier system, I don't think is gonna be enough.
No, I agree. They just don't. And I just feel like whether you want to believe that we're gonna have warmer climate or not, I
Yeah.
mean, you just look at the weather, it's just,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, it's unpredictable, the weather.
I mean, we're not gonna start school in October,
Yeah.
No.
so,
The nice thing is the company that's supposed to do all the boilers and HVACs in the other buildings, they're really good problem solvers. And, you know, they're not this huge multinational corporation just gonna be like, buy our boiler. They really already threw out a lot of good ideas around how can we can problem solve around this issue,
Okay.
you know?
I'm just worried that
Yeah.
we're not building
Right,
enough
because
money
Moose Hill-
to add that in.
Moose
Yeah.
Hill does do the summer program.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's a huge thing, because right now, there's only, 2 classrooms that actually have air conditioning in them?
Yep.
That's
It's not good, like, we're gonna build this whole new addition and not have air conditioning?
Right. I mean, I don't believe it was designed with it.
No.
I think it
No.
should be designed to have it.
Mhm.
And that
Even if
could
it's
be
not even if it's not the old part, but the new part, then that could just house a summer program,
Mhm.
and,
Or if there's ways to
Yeah.
do
Good point.
mini splits into the building somehow,
Yep.
something like that for the
Yeah.
older parts of the building.
Mhm.
But I think we'd be cutting ourselves short.
Yeah.
For the future by not including money for the right HVAC systems.
I'll have
I
to
don't
take
know
you,
what the rest of the board
Yeah.
thinks. on that, but-
I agree.
I'll take you guys to the second floor, Matthew Thornton and the old 8th grade wing at the middle school on the next 90-degree day, you know? Moose Hill is actually pretty comfortable compared to those 2 spots.
Seriously.
I like, they're oppressively hot on a
Oh,
90-degree
no.
day.
Yeah.
But they're just older buildings and they're
Yeah.
never made for it, you know?
Right?
So that's down the line, you know?
Oh, that's another, those are other projects that need to be
Yeah,
looked at for
yeah,
the schools,
yeah,
that,
yeah,
those HVAC projects
Yeah.
should be coming.
yeah,
South School was miserable.
yeah,
They're all
Yeah.
miserable.
South School,
Yeah.
yeah.
you did have a little window on the top, you
Yeah.
just took the long pole to open.
I mean, it's no longer just hot during the summers anymore.
I know.
You're
Yep.
finding it in the falls
Yep.
and the springtime, and
Yep.
weirdly enough, sometimes in January,
Yeah.
it'll hit 90. I remember
Yeah,
that.
it's
for
weird.
last
Well, the
year, last
humidity
year.
is just,
And the
Yeah,
humidity is
that's-
just the
yeah.
worst part in the
Yeah.
buildings, because they're old masonry buildings and they just
Sweat.
sweat,
And there's
Yeah.
no airflow.
Yeah.
no
No.
airflow.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Why they design schools like that is beyond me.
They're just,
it's
they
cheap.
built them as
Yeah.
efficient, cheap buildings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Air quality is a big thing now with buildings. And
Yeah.
I mean, we saw how many schools closed in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
For those hot days, beginning of the year.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I would hate to see that happen. And,
Yeah.
I mean, especially for these young kids who a lot of them have,
Yeah.
are either autistic or have other health needs that the temperature changes can really upset some.
For sure.
kids.
Okay.
So I guess that would be an amended item for Trident to look at,
Think about it, yeah.
is for the HVAC systems.
I mean, in timing wise, like, when would we have to have that added? for that number.
Well, they won't go into design until it passes,
Okay,
and then they'll start with all the more information with the kindergarten committee.
okay,
But if we want to have them add in HVAC to the whole budget, they would need to know that sooner rather than later,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
because that, I mean, we can't add that
I
into
thought they were
design
doing
after the fact.
something on the new end of it.
no,
No,
No, they,
no.
they got a line item for HVAC here.
It's probably just for heat and like, air.
But if they're doing forced hot air, they could easily. The chillers and stuff.
I mean, it's a question I can ask Mark, like, again,
Right.
because I mean,
I
we
just have clarification on it.
before we adjourn, so I'm gonna ask Mark about escalation.
Mhm.
And ask him about the HVAC.
Mhm.
Is there any-
And not just for heating, but
No, for, yeah, I know, yeah, heating and cooling.
Security was another thing too, just to kind of.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
assume there's some air conditioning in the extra space for the programs, because some of them need that.
Yeah.
So there's gotta be some in there, I'm not sure on the
Well,
wing.
that's why those two classrooms have it, because they put the
Correct.
kids that require,
Correct,
right.
you know, they
but I'm
can't
not sure
regulate.
about the wing for
Yeah.
full day kindergarten.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah,
we
so-
need clarity on that, like
Yeah.
how much of that is, because if it's like pretty much the whole thing, then fine, you
Yeah.
know,
But if it's
but
only 2 rooms that they're planning it for,
Yeah,
like,
it's just
what's
not-
the point? That's a
Yeah.
waste of-
And if that's a recommendation of you guys, you can let him know, and he could possibly come back with a line item for that.
because if it's like, you know, 1% of the whole job, like.
Right.
For, I mean, it needs a lot of program needs too, so it's
Mhm.
not, you know.
Good points.
And for the security end, yes, we're expanding our vestibule for better security, but we need to have clarification of if it's including the electrical and camera needs
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff for
I
security.
think it would, but we'll
Yeah.
just double check, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm assuming like this building's just gonna be brought up to like full code
Oh,
to
yeah.
meet security and stuff,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, a lot of these
I
buildings.
think
once
he
you touch
said
something,
that,
you have to
that
do
once you
everything.
start,
Yeah,
and he has money in there for remodel of existing facility to bring up to current standards, because the
yeah,
building
no, I was
is,
just thinking of like, you know, I mean, there's all these current standards of
Yeah.
like,
Talking to the police and fire.
great.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, we're gonna meet 6 p.m. Tuesday at this, we can meet at.
High school?
We
High
can probably
school
just
chapters,
review it on our house real quick.
Well, yeah, you can send something out probably before then.
Oh,
right?
I'm
Yeah.
planning on sending it either tomorrow or Friday.
So can everybody get me their resume stuff by Friday?
Mhm.
Okay, so that I can work on it.
Or just plug it in yet to this. I can send a so like everyone can work on it
Mhm.
together too.
Okay. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. We
whatever
like-
you update is like updated in
In
mine,
real
so you're
life,
not
right,
working on
yeah.
it.
Or if you can just make a slide with like Casey's name and then she can put her
Yeah.
points on it and then mail it, email it back.
Yeah, whatever. I just don't want it to be super long, because someone's gonna.
Yeah, I think 1 to 2 bullet points, so.
And then that way, like, if they upload it to like the district site or whatever, someone in the community could always look at it. and see. You want our pictures?
Yeah.
Some headshots.
I'll see what I can Google with you guys.
Oh, boy. Cool. All right,
Motion to adjourn.
wait a second. Adjourning at,
Oh, we need to have an all in favor.
oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And,
Bye.
okay. Seeing and hearing
I said I
all
still,
favor and no no's, for adjourned at 8:57, or no, 7:57.
77,
Yeah,
yeah.
7:57.
Gap.
All for the rest.
Thank you so much.
Thank you